In this tutorial, we will cover the basics on Django with Tailwind CSS using this simple project as an example. So over here we have some posts listed, and at the navigation right side, we can see a button that will allow us to switch themes. So currently we are in a dark theme, and if I press this button, we can see that the theme has changed to light. We can go inside of a post, go back, switch the theme, go to a different post, go back, and as you can see, the theme is basically not changing. This solution is working really well, and the Tailwind CSS styling is really awesome, very easy, and very powerful, and you don't have to use it specifically in Django. If you are writing, for example, React applications or Next.js applications, you can apply Tailwind CSS as well. So if you like this tutorial, please leave a like, please leave a comment, and I will create a much deeper dive into Tailwind CSS. I will prepare a specific landing page written in, for example, React or Next.js in Tailwind CSS, and also we will have a project in Django with Tailwind CSS. So if you like it, please let me know, and right now, without further ado, let's get started. Alright guys, before we start to code our mini project, let's take a look at what have I done so far. You can see I'm already inside of the Django administration, and that means I already created a blank Django project and I created a super user. So you can probably see that I have a post application included. So this post application has two fields, the title, and this is the type of char field, and a body as a text field. So now we can jump into Visual Studio Code. As you can see, this post application is over here, and it's already included in the installed apps list. So in the models PY, as mentioned before, we have the char field and the text field, and then we are returning a string representation method as self-title. We can now go to the settings PY, and also I just want to mention that we have additional templates setting over here. That means that inside of this templates directory, we can keep additional templates, and over here I placed navbar HTML. It is currently empty, but we will create our navbar over here with Tailwind CSS soon. So as the next step, we can actually proceed and install Tailwind CSS. So let's go to the Django Tailwind package documentation, and there are several steps that we need to take in order for having this working, but it's absolutely worth it if you ask me. So first of all, let's install Django Tailwind. So I'm going to quit the development server from running, and let's install Django Tailwind. All right. As the next step, we are going to add Tailwind to the installed apps. So in the settings PY, let's add a comment third-party packages over here, and let's place Tailwind. Okay, so this is step number 2. Then we need to create a Tailwind CSS compatible Django app, and this basically means that we need to create a dedicated Tailwind application inside of our Django project in order to manage Tailwind CSS. This application will come with, among others, a Tailwind config file where we will set up our dark mode. And also it will come with a base HTML template, which we will use in order for other templates to inherit from this particular template. So what I'm going to do now is to grab Python manage py tailwind init. I'm going to save the settings py, and now I'm going to run this. All right. So now we can add our we are not done here, of course, because right now we just need to confirm the app name. So I'm going to press enter. So now our team app has been created and we can check it out in our Django project. So there it is. All right. And in the templates, we have this base HTML file where we can basically do some changes, but I'm going to wait a second. I'm not going to do anything over here just yet. I'm just going to leave it as it is. And then in the static source, we will have this Tailwind config, which we can also adjust. So we will place the settings for the dark mode over here soon. All right, so this is it, but we need to also include this theme in our installed apps list. So let's place it below Tailwind. All right. And if we go back to the documentation, we need to provide the Tailwind app name. So let's do it below the installed apps list. Okay. We need to add internal IPS. Let's do it below the Tailwind app name. And now we can install Tailwind CSS dependencies. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to save the settings py, and I'm going to run python manage py tailwind install. Okay, this is done. So as the next step, we can adjust our base HTML if we have our own base HTML. However, as mentioned before, we will be using the one that comes in our theme. So right here we have templates, base HTML, and we already have this Tailwind tags and Tailwind CSS. So we can skip this part. And we can include Django browser reload. So this is very useful. Whenever we will do some changes, we won't need to reload the page. So again, we need to go back to settings py. Below the theme, let's add Django browser reload. But this is not everything. In order for this to work, we need to add the middleware for this Django browser reload. So let's place it in the middleware. And also we need to add it to the URL patterns. So let's save this. Let's go to the main URLs py file and let's place it beneath the admin path. Okay, and we need to import include. All right. And now what I'm going to do is to copy python manage py tailwind start to start the Tailwind server, and I'm going to start the Tailwind server in a separate terminal. So again, I'm going to activate the virtual environment and python manage py tailwind start, and everything should be working. It was able to build, and this is for the development. Okay, if you want to use it for production, here are the instructions. You basically need to run python manage py tailwind build. So this is for the production, and I think this is it. So now what we can do is to go to our base HTML, and let's say that over here we want to have a break line, and let's create a block content. Okay, so now as the next step, let's go to the post application. Let's create a templates directory inside. So our post application will be holding our views. The list view is going to be our main view, and the detail view is going to be some additional view just to check if moving from view A to view B works properly with the theme changes. So if we have a dark theme and we move from view A to view B, we want the theme to remain the same. All right, so Let's create over here main HTML and detail HTML. Let's inherit from base HTML. Let's write block content. Over here we will have detail. Let's save this and let's do the same for main. Extends base HTML, block content, and here we will have a list. So let's save this, and now in the views PY, let's bring in the list view and the detail view from Django views generic. So from Django views generic, we want to import the list view and the detail view. Okay, so let's create a class post list view, which inherits from list view. And let's indicate that the model is going to be our post model. So I need to bring it in from .models. We want to import post from .models, import post. And the template name is going to be equal posts main HTML. Okay, so this is for the list view. So I'm going to copy this, paste it below. Here we will have post detail view, which inherits from detail view. The model is post and the template name is posts detail HTML. All right, so now we need to create our URLs PY. From Django URLs, we want to import path. We also want to bring in our views to register them. So from .views, we want to import post list view and post detail view. Let's set the app name to posts. Let's open up the URL patterns list and let's register both paths. So first of all, the main path is going to be for the post list view as view. And the name is going to be main. And then path for the detail. So here we will have a primary key and post detail view as view. And the name is going to be detail. All right, so now we need to include those URL patterns in our main URLs PY. So let's go to our core application, to URLs, and I'm just going to copy this, paste it. We are going to delete everything since we want the list view, the post list view, to be the main view for our project. And now I can write include and posts URLs. And the namespace is going to be posts. All right, so let's see if this will actually work. I'm going to hit refresh. And of course, we need to run the development server, Python manage py run server. Okay. And we have template does not exist. So this is a weird error. We have main HTML. I made a mistake over here. So templates, and of course it should be posts. And inside of posts, we want to move in our main HTML and detail HTML. All right, so let's save this. And as you can see, we didn't have to refresh the page thanks to this Django browser reload. And we have a confirmation that Django Tailwind CSS has been installed. So we need to do some styling over here. Over here, we have our list. Let's change the template as the next step. All right, so let's go to our base HTML. So we need to go to theme and base HTML. All right. And we will be using font awesome. So I'm going to paste the CDN for using font awesome above the Tailwind CSS. So this is the first step. Then inside of our body class, I'm going to remove the fonts, the tracking normal, leading normal. Let's just keep the background gray for the light mode. And then if we want to have the dark mode, we need to specify dark and then BG. And for me, I'm just going to put in BG slate. And right now, actually, and this is very inconvenient for us to use Tailwind CSS since we don't have a dedicated extension. So let's write down Tailwind CSS and let's install Tailwind CSS. All right, so let's try now. Maybe we will need to, we don't have to restart Visual Studio Code. And now we can select a certain color for the background. So I'm going to go with BG Slate 700. Okay, for the dark mode. I'm going to keep this BG gray for the light mode. So initially, everything is going to be, if you don't see a dark mode, everything is going to be in the light mode, like over here. So BG gray 100 or BG gray 50. And if you see a dark mode, this is going to be related to the dark mode. So you can say that you are configuring in a class both setups for the light mode and for the dark mode. Okay. You can also do it for the text. So the text black is going to be for the light mode. And then if I want to have the configuration for the dark mode, I can write text gray, let's say 50. Okay. And this is basically it for our body, at least. Then below our container, or above our container, we can include our navbar. So let's write include navbar HTML. So now I'm going to save this and I'm going to head over to the navbar. And here I'm just going to place in maybe H1 and navbar. And I'm going to provide a class of text, and maybe I'm going to add a size 3XL. And maybe I can add, for example, some text color. So I can use, for example, text green or text zinc. You have all kinds of options. So I'll go with text zinc 900. And this could be for the light mode. And for the dark mode, let's place in text gray 100, for example. Okay. So let's save this and let's see if this works. Okay, so here we have our navbar and nothing changed over here. We will remove this very soon. I'm just playing around just to show you how Tailwind CSS works. Right now, let's go back to our base HTML, and now we can get rid of this section over here. We can keep the container. And if we save it, we will have our list over here. So let's add some padding top, and let's add 8. And we see that there's a distance right now. So yeah, as the next step, we can work a little bit on the navigation. So let's actually go back to the navbar. And as mentioned before, we are going to simply remove everything we've written down over here. And we will create a nav. Okay. Nav, and let's place a class. And the first thing that I'm going to do is to place in the background color slate 400 for the light mode. For the dark mode, what I'm going to do is to place maybe BG slate 900. Okay. And let's also specify the text. So the text can be black. By default, it's black, but I'm just going to put it over here. You can change it to gray, for example, 900. And for the dark mode, let's put in text gray 100, for example. All right. Let's also add some padding. So I'm going to put in padding X4. So on both sides, we will see some padding. Okay, so this is just a navbar. So currently we will see over here a little bit of padding. And once we add our button, we will see on this side some padding as well. So if we save this right now, the navbar is of course gone because we need to place something inside of our nav. So I'm just going to place navbar for now. Navbar. Did I save it? No, I didn't. And there it is. Okay. All right. So now that we know how we can set up styling for both light and dark classes, I'm going to improve the pace by pasting some code. So right now, what we need to do is to maybe comment this out because we don't have this toggle functionality just yet. We don't have this URL change theme functionality just yet. So I'm just going to comment this out as well. And everything else should be working. So we have our link to posts. The contact is just an empty placeholder, so our navigation doesn't seem that empty. Let's see what will happen if I save the navbar HTML. Okay, so we have the posts, we have the contact, and we have our button. So if we go to the button, it's a background gray. It has some padding on the left and right. It has some padding on the top and bottom. It is rounded with the XL size. And on hover, we are changing the background to gray 300, and the transition duration is 300 milliseconds. And for the dark, it's going to be a BG slate 600, all right? So this is what's happening in terms of the button. And in order to reorganize this navigation a little bit nicer, so we want this button on the right side, what we can do is to add flex, and then we want to justify between, there it is. And we also, let's save this, and we can see that now we have the post, the contact, so the navigation options on the left and the button for changing the theme on the right. So this is good. Let's add a height of 20. All right, and maybe this is a little bit too much, but I have my screen, my browser zoomed in. So if we zoom out to 100%, it will look like this. So yeah, let's just keep it as height 20, but we would like to place our items in the center. And there it is. Okay, so I think this is good enough. All right, so as the next step, let's go to the theme. And over here, let's create a views.py file in which we will keep a view in order to toggle between dark and light mode. So I'm going to paste this code and walk through it with you very quickly. So as you can see, it's a function view where we are checking if is dark theme in the request session. If this case is true, then we are setting the request session is dark theme to the opposite, okay? Because we clicked on a button and we say that we have this dark theme to true. So once we click it, we want it to not be true, okay? So we are setting it to the opposite. And if the change theme isn't in the request session, we would like to set it. So we are setting the request session is dark theme, and so initially it's to set to light mode, and then once we click on it, it's going to be true for the dark theme. And then we want to return to the same page we are on. So this is the way to do it with HTTP response redirect request meta get HTTP referrer. All right. So now what we need to do is to simply register this change theme in our URLs PY. So I'm just going to copy the path and put it above the posts. Okay, and we will import from theme URLs, sorry, not URLs, views, the change theme. Okay, so this is one thing. The other thing that we will need is a context processor, since we want this this functionality to be applied across all our views. So it will be actually placed in our navigation, which will be applied to all our views. So in order to do this, we need a context processor. And let's go to the theme and let's create context processors UI file. And again, I'm just going to paste this function, and we have the name theme. We are checking if is dark theme in the request session. We are basically storing it in a variable is dark theme if this is true, okay? And then we are returning it as is dark theme. And in other case, if we don't have dark theme in the request session, we are setting is dark theme to false. So now what we need to do is to register this context processor in our settings py file. So let's go back to the settings, and in the context processors, let's place this context processor for switching the theme. All right, so as the next step, what we need to do is to include the checking which theme is which in our base HTML. So we need to go to theme, no, not theme, sorry, templates in our theme, base HTML, and in the HTML tag, we can add a class, and then if it's dark theme, we are going to use the dark, and otherwise we are going to use the light mode. So there's one step missing still, and in order to have this functionality working, we need to go to our Tailwind config.js and set the dark mode as class. So over here we have this file, and in the module exports above the content, we can add dark mode class, and now we can save this. We can save base HTML. We can go to our navigation, navbar, okay, and now we can bring in back this change theme, since we have this path registered, this view registered, and we can also check for the is dark theme. We can also bring in the else statement, okay, and then we can also place in over here and if. So let's save this, and we will see if this is working on or not. So we can see that it's partially working. Okay, so I found the issue. I hope I found the issue. So this quotation mark was missing. Let's save this, and there it is. Okay, so now it's working. Dark, light, dark, light. Okay, so this is good news. So now we can focus on this list page. So we need to go to our main HTML. Okay, and first of all, what we are going to do is to check if there are any posts. If there aren't any posts, we are just going to display text that there are no posts. So again, I'm just going to copy some code and paste it inside, and we will walk through it very quickly. So we are checking, as mentioned before, if there are any objects in the database. And if this is the case, we will have a grid with 3 columns and a gap of 3. And then we are going to simply display the objects. So if there are 3 objects, there will be 1 row. If there are going to be 6 objects, there will be 2 rows. If there are going to be 9 objects, there will be 3 rows. Okay. So over here, we just have a link to the detail page. We have some padding. We have some settings for the dark and light mode. Okay. And here we have an interesting combination for clicking on a particular item. So if we hover in the light mode, we have BG gray. But then if we hover in the dark mode, we need to specify dark and then hover and then BG gray. Okay, and then we have the duration, the rounded, large, and we are dropping some shadow. Okay, so this is for the main HTML. The detail HTML will be much more simple. So it basically it won't contain any Tailwind CSS. This is just an introduction video, so we will paste some paragraphs inside of a div. Okay, so let's save this, and now we see that there aren't any posts. So let's go to the Django administration. I'm going to pause this video and I'm going to add 6 posts, and if you are watching, please do the same thing. Alright guys, so I've added 6 posts. This is how it looks like in our application, and in the administration we have a confirmation that there are 6 posts. So we have a simple title and a simple body, and we have this hover effect, and if we go inside we see that we are keeping the dark mode if we are of course in the dark mode, and we see some details about the post. We can go back, we can change the theme, we can go inside a different post, go back, and so on. Okay, so everything seems to be working, and yeah, please let me know if you enjoyed this tutorial, and if so, I will make another a bigger tutorial that will cover Django and Tailwind CSS in details. So hope to see you guys soon. Take care and bye bye.